Hello and welcome. My name is Carlo. I am the founder and educational director of the International Parenting and Health Institute. And today I am joined by Kuczkowski, who is the founder of Start with Sleep, as well as our integrative adult sleep coach instructor. We are so excited to present to all of you every month, the first Tuesday of every month, our live sleep chat. So as you can see at the bottom of our banner, it's going to be every first Tuesday of every month at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, which is the time right now, 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. And we are going to be having many discussions directly related to the professional realm. The work that Soda and I do while we support many clientele, and that is our passion. We also mainly support professionals. That is a huge amount of work that we do and that we're very passionate about as well. And from a variety of discussions that we have had and surveys and evaluations, we see that a huge value that we can bring to all of you, especially the professionals, is discussing why sleep is so important in your profession, how it could be a vital missing component. And so today, Soda and I are going to begin talking about how you can begin incorporating the vital component of sleep into your practice. But first, we're going to begin talking about why usually in the healthcare and wellness profession, it's not really a hot topic. Usually the general topics discussed are around fitness itself, which tends to be more so around the exercise or nutrition aspect, and maybe rest and recovery are discussed. But sleep doesn't really tend to be something that is usually a huge incorporated aspect or component of someone's program. So Soda, why do you think that is? Why do you think these healthcare and wellness professionals in general don't really dive into sleep?
Well, I think it's just been one of those overlooked because we have, especially in the United States, more so than in other areas. And I mean, the sleep issue in terms of sleep deprivation is a global epidemic. I think it's more or less that mindset of, I'll sleep when I'm dead, or that hustle culture, or that sleep really isn't vital to anything that we do, right? But we know through research that it affects and touches every part of our lives. And really, you could be in the best physical health and you could be great about your nutrition, right? But if your sleep, if you don't have that foundational piece, so many things can still fall apart. You can still have cardiac failure. You know what I mean? You can still have a malabsorption issue that causes a number of different things. You can have issues with your gut health. Like, all of it is interconnected. And I think the conversation has started and people are realizing how it can impact our physical, mental, and our emotional health.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, I will even relate it directly to me. Just earlier in the week, I had some raccoons sneak into my yard. We have some grapes growing. And so my dogs went crazy. And I was woken up about maybe 2 to 3 times for maybe about 10 minutes or so. My next day was shot. And I am pretty good about my nutrition, pretty good about my exercise. I take my daily pauses. I had to rearrange the next day to really support where I was at because just that interruption alone. And it was a really great reminder and build up to today's, talk, because it just, put me right in the thick of it again, saying, yes, exactly. This is why I'm so passionate, like Soda, with this work, because it is so vital. And so many people have this, it's changing, like you said, but still in the back of the mind, it's been ingrained. The more you do, the more actions you take, the more you hustle, the better it is. And really, that is not the truth. If you begin to look at top athletes, for example, top performers, even people who are running great businesses and companies, you get to see their lifestyle. Sleep is a huge component. I think Cristiano Ronaldo, I mean, he's impeccable with his sleep. If I remember correctly, he sleeps before his games in a different room to prepare for his games. And top, CEOs of companies who are very successful will often talk about how they not only incorporate healthy sleep, but meditation. And so they'll really introduce a lifestyle that welcomes the downtime, because they understand very clearly that their productivity and creativity will suffer if they don't do that. And so what I often see happen is during, an evaluation or assessment, like when I have gone to a variety of different practitioners, particularly in healthcare or wellness, there can be so much focus on the, again, nutrition or fitness or even psychology, your thoughts, your beliefs. And then it's like there might be a question here or there on sleep, but it's not something super highlighted to the point where, oh, it could be considered as possibly or usually a root cause of what's going on, and how, like you had mentioned, everything is cascading then, right? It's having that domino effect. What are some ways do you feel, Soda, that a healthcare or wellness professional can begin incorporating or considering it, even if they have not reached the point where they've gotten a certification, where they've dived deeply into, but how can they begin taking into consideration sleep?
Well, I think that's a great question, because I mean, as the instructor for the IPHI Adult Sleep Coach Certification Program, that's one thing that I work with, with the students in terms of certification, is picking a niche market. So the thing to understand about sleep is that it's very multifaceted. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of contradicting information out there, depending on what is being researched or studied. You have different outcomes. Some people say blue blockers are effective. Others say that they're ineffective. There's a lot of contradictory things, but it's really relative to who it is particularly that you're working with, the demographic or the individual. So when it comes to my students, I'm in a unique position because the way that I kind of proposition myself in sleep is that I've been in the industry for 16 years. I've worked in different groups and whatnot. So my expertise is showing other professionals how to incorporate sleep into their space. So you had mentioned, in sports, right? So for instance, if I'm working with a sports coach, I'm talking about how sleep improves physical recovery and reaction time, because that's what's relative to them. So even if you're not looking for a certification, you want to be looking for, how does sleep fit into the space that you work in, right? If you're a school teacher, it's a catalyst for learning and development and academic performance, right? Like that's a really important thing. If you're looking at businesses, right? Like an HR department, especially a lot of organizations, I think the last statistic was in like 2017, they said like 27% of the workforce in the United States works shift work, and now it's higher because of hospitality, manufacturing, a number of different things, first responders and whatnot. That goes into reducing healthcare costs, reducing workplace accidents, right? And then increasing productivity, because when you're aligning someone's natural biological rhythms, right, those patterns, that's going to improve all of those other things. So it's understanding, how does sleep fit within your respective space? And I think that that's what we want to accomplish here through these conversations, and helping you understand there's so much to learn about sleep, but all you need to know is the pocket of where it fits into what you're trying to share with others.
100%. Very well said. As you were talking about that, one of the things that I started to reflect on as you were sharing is how often when we go into a space, we don't consider how that space is influencing us. Environment is so important. And so, as you were talking about, and by the way, everyone, if you haven't checked out Soda's website, she has this incredible shop. Her business, Start With Sleep. So, actually, before I go into it, just talk a little bit about that, because I want everyone, I visualize, and I often tell this to Soda, these sleep shops around the world. And what Soda's done is pretty remarkable, and I love it. And so, if you can just share a little bit about your space and what inspired you to create that space, because I'm going to talk about environment in a moment, and just what the intention of it is and how this has been very useful.
Yeah, so thank you. I set out to create an experience where someone just feels it's a very empowering space. So while I have a retail component, I'm the first one to tell people that the tools that I provide are to supplement the education, because without the education and the changing, behavioral and lifestyle factors that go into it, these are just tools to support that. So it's not like a standalone. Created a community space where I host workshops and, yogic sleep classes and things like that to help educate people within that realm. But it was more or less because when I first started out in my business with sleep health, people didn't know what that was. When I opened up, they were like, do you sell sheets or pillows? Because we really identify sleep with all of these items, right? Like these tangible things, like we need new sheets, we need a new mattress, a pillow. But it's all about, does the pillow support your sleep position, right? Are the sheets breathable? Because temperature is really important to our sleep space. So it's understanding how to utilize those tools effectively. So I wanted to create a space where there was that dialogue to understand that we should think about sleep the same way you would think about changing your nutrition or diet plan and working with a nutritionist, right? Or working with a personal trainer to learn how to do the right corrective exercises to get the most maximum benefits from the activities that you're doing. Sleep is a really big part of that physical, mental, and emotional health component. So showing people that, they come in, they can smell the aromatherapy products, you know what I mean? Like they can see the different medical devices that are on the market, even holistically, I have samples of like oral appliances. So they see all the things that are out there and they understand how it works with what challenge, right? Because when it comes to sleep, there could be a number of different variables that cause us to have challenges, right? But it's more or less about the goal, right? If you're waking up at night, it can be a number of different things, which is why it's very individualistic. That's why these assessments are important, right? We want to get all that background information and figure out what's the best solution for you, meaning that we're finding that root cause that is the most significant factor that's causing all these other little ripples in your health, right? So all of these things that people kind of turn to in terms of products and whatnot, the education is where you really should be looking, because everything else is a Band-Aid and a crutch, and you're going to have bigger problems most often down the road because you start with something and it doesn't work. You go to the next thing, and before you know it, it's escalated and you're not able to shut off your mind, go to sleep. You're up throughout the night, and that causes much more disarray on your health than the initial problem that you started with. So it's really about that education and being a proactive, preventative health space. I came from sleep medicine. So the clients I was working with, it's like they're diabetic, they have cardiovascular disease, they have high blood pressure, they're already dealing with all these chronic issues. I want to get ahead of it where we're prioritizing our sleep before it manifests itself into these short and long-term things that can happen with our health. We want to be thinking about it, before it happens. And the last point I'll make, because you had mentioned about having trouble with sleep the other night, is for people to understand there's no such thing as the perfect sleep. Right? Everyone has an off night every now and then. The empowering thing is to understand when something goes wrong, how do you fix it? If you stay up till 2:00 in the morning watching Netflix, go to bed at your regular time the next day. Going to bed, 4 hours early is not going to help fix that kind of sleep deficit that you have, right? So it's understanding and empowering them with the right education so that they know how to, those corrective solutions. And I think as working with this, with wellness and healthcare professionals, helping them understand how to use sleep as a tool for what they're trying to help their clients achieve.
100%. And you hit upon a key word, which is the experience, right? When you want them to walk into your space, it's that experience. Because one thing that I've noticed throughout my whole life and through my 25 plus years working in coaching and with so many people,
I think we may have lost Mar due to a faulty Wi-Fi connection. But just to kind of elaborate on what I was saying in terms of creating experience, it's about creating that dialogue around sleep. Most people have a lot of misconceptions about it. Can we catch up on it? Do I actually need 8 hours, the 8-hour myth, right? It's all about what is based on your individual needs. We don't want to sleep less than 6 hours per night because there's a number of different things that can happen when we don't allow our bodies enough time to heal and recover. There she is.
We had a power outage last night because we had this massive, I'm in California, we had this massive rainstorm that took everybody by surprise, lightning, thunder. Anyway, and so it's the first chat this has happened. I'm like, okay. So thank you for taking the
Well, you
reins.
froze, but I was just kind of filling up the space, and I'll just finish up my last comment. I was just saying, if you sleep less than 6 hours per night, that's where we see a lot of these chronic things that can happen. But if we're sleeping excessively, it's the same thing. So it's about finding that balance as well. So I was just talking a little bit about that.
Thank you so much. So yes, where I left off, I believe one of the last things I said, and I'll just kind of, I'll fill it up a little bit more, is the experience. Okay, so one thing that I've noticed throughout my own journey, as well as the clients I've worked with over the many years, is that why are some habits easier to change than others? And there's a number of reasons for that. But one thing that became very clear for me is how impactful and powerful the environment is. Every time you put somebody in an environment that's more conducive to the outcome that you want, it is a lot easier for that person to make behavioral changes. And so this is why one of many reasons I love Soda Shop. And also one of the many reasons why, if you don't have a shop like Soda's, I go into in my sessions, and we train our professionals to do this, is to set up an environment and an experience that allows your client to understand what it feels like to have relief, what it feels like to be in a state where your parasympathetic nervous system is, more at play, where you're not in this constant fight or flight and carrying this burden all the time, what it feels like to slow down your breath. So one of the things that I would encourage all of you that are working with clients is, first, it's so important that we ourselves role model. Like Soda said, it's not about being perfect. We're all human beings. I mean, I shared with you what I just went through the other night. There's no avoiding life. Life happens to all of us. And just like Soda said, it's a matter of how we show up and being very real with ourselves, and then holding ourselves accountable, saying, okay, look, I stayed up that extra night to watch Netflix, or, oh my gosh, the night before, whatever, or I went to this party, whatever it is. And then just do what you need to do then to support yourself, right? So that you're not then going to box yourself into this downward cycle of, not sleeping well for a long time and then leading to other issues. And so it begins really with saying, am I, as a coach, as a healthcare and wellness professional, how am I showing up for my client? Because your energy, your presence, the way that you start and end a session absolutely can either overstimulate your client, right? Or it can really create a space of calm. That's one of the things that I worked on a lot with myself, because I'm from the East Coast, where Soda is currently originally. And so I've got a lot of energy, a lot of excitement in me. And so I tend to go, go, go. And while I was reeling myself back and making a lot of changes to my own lifestyle, one of the questions I asked myself as a professional is, what can I do? Not just say or educate, but what can I do to offer so that the experience that my client has also gives them that window of understanding of, like, wow, now I get it. Like, I get why I would want to have more sleep. Because when people are not able to distinguish the difference between, sometimes people are in such a habit of being in overdrive and overstimulated that they don't even feel like something is wrong. They don't even, until something, grave or more severe happens to their health, they don't even realize that something is happening to their body that's not supportive of their health. And so if we can, as professionals, give our clients that experience, even if it's a small breathing exercise, even if it's ourselves, coming into the space super calm, or even having the space environment being like a spa, right? Where you walk in, you're like Soda space. Oh, this feels really good. The aromatherapy, all the qualities like a spa would have. That in of itself teaches your client so much, right? So there's all these little things that you can begin doing, even though you don't have a certification or specialty in it, that can begin yourself and your client having this really great discovery of, wow, could this be a huge factor into it? And if you do not specialize or are certified in sleep and you're a healthcare and wellness professional, you could then refer out. You can begin searching for those professionals in your community that do have a certification and build that rapport and connection. And then both of you can refer one another for a variety of things.
And I think that goes important into, like I saw a commercial. We have a large cancer institute that's here, and they talk about specific doctors that specialize in different things. People specialize in different kind of sectors of sleep, different variations of cancer, right? With sleep, it's the same thing. I know a lot about sleep because I've been in the sleep, and I'm very unique in my position, right? In that I've worked in so many different things, but not everyone has like my background or my experience, right? So when you're entering this space, it's really important to know your subject as it relates to what you're doing. You're never going to know everything that there is. Research comes out every single day. And that's why we have to be proactive about our education. That's why certifications are great, because even if it's not something that you want to utilize in a formal space as a sleep coach, and we say this to our students as well, like you can use it as an educator for corporate wellness. You can use it to supplement your life coaching. You can supplement, we've had a pharmacist that, can use it in supplementation in terms of what they're trying to do. Like you can use that as your continuing education piece and make it catered to your demographic. So someone knows, if I am a woman who's premenopausal or menopausal between the ages of like 35 and 55, and I'm looking for someone to help me because I'm waking up, I'm having hot flashes. What are the lifestyle behavioral things that really pertain to me specifically? You're going to want to talk to the person who spends all of their time in that space, right? Because a sleep generalist might say, oh, well, what about lights? What about caffeine? Are you, setting up your environment right? Are you watching TV, falling asleep with the TV on? And those are all generalizations, which why often fail people, right? Because you're talking about something very specific. You should be working with someone that specifically understands your needs, your challenges, your goals. And that's the thing that's really important.
100%. And piggybacking off of that in the certification realm, that's why it's vital when you do look for a program and do your research, finding a program that is constantly evolving. That is key. I
We have
have,
videos all the time. Mara adds great
yeah,
videos.
and I say that because I've taken, and they're all, by the way, every certification program which I've taken, which is many, 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 I've taken weekend, week longs, month long. I mean, I've taken so many, and have been able then to see, what works for me, where do I lose some connection and so on. And I will tell you, for me, it's so vital to keep that continuing education. No matter who you're certified with, even if it's not in sleep, ensure that if that organization is not keeping up with continuing education or making that offer or updating things, that you yourself go out there and you keep yourself exposed to new information. I believe, like, Sodi, you're so good about this. You have like those Google, what is it? You connect Google alerts. That's right. The Google alerts, keeping you on the up and up on specific topics, things like that, because this is ever evolving. And just like Soda was saying, science is not this static, unchanging. It's constantly changing and evolving, and dependent on the circumstances, on the unique situation of each individual. While Soda said there might be some generalities that across the board from the foundational standpoint seem like, okay, this is needed in this case, there's so much more that one has to look into that is not going to be the same as another similar case. That is vital to understand the logistics behind why we go into so many of the components that we do that are not just the generalizations of sleep. And so even again, like I mentioned before, getting to know your local sleep practitioners, that's huge. Starting to connect more with them and having discussions, I think that is vital and super important. So
if I could just add on to that,
yes.
one space that I think is really important, this is a conversation I have on a daily, is that everything right now is about mental health and well-being. And you cannot have mental health without sleep intervention. Like sleep is such a vital component of these mental health initiatives, where it's like, how well rested you are goes into your likelihood for developing depression, symptoms of bipolar disease, schizophrenia. All these things are managed by good sleep hygiene. Insomnia, medication use, like all of that feeds into one another, especially that stress and sleep. There's a vicious cycle that can occur there, right? Because our stress hormones are pumped out when we don't sleep well. When we don't sleep well, we tend to be more stressed individuals as well. So there's this vicious cycle that can occur. So sleep has to be part of those conversation. So mental health counselors, social workers, like all those different behavioral management, like there's so many different organizations in the community that I work with. I'm constantly having these conversations where they say everyone's talking about sleep challenges, but what is being addressed? Like, how are you addressing it other than providing a prescription that should be a short-term solution? Because the majority of sleeping pills that are out there, if you look at the the kind of the verbiage on the paperwork that you get, they shouldn't be used for more than 2 to 4 weeks. Anything other than that, you should be meeting with a sleep specialist, really going into a clinic setting and getting tested for something larger, to find really the root cause of that. So it's not just putting a Band-Aid and trying like herbal teas or herbal supplements. All those things, while natural, may not necessarily be safe, right? And they might not be effective for you. There's so many things people don't realize, like things like kava is a natural herb. If you are recovering from drug or alcohol, that can cause you to relapse. So not everything natural should just be taken at face value, right? Like you need to be very mindful and educate yourself about that and help to educate your client base.
100%. Yes, because you can set up everything, like you were saying, the environment, the temperature, all this. But if you're not looking into the day to day, right? Because it's how you're functioning during the day that is also really setting up the stage, which how you're going to transition into the nighttime. And that's where most people usually don't go into. They don't go into that lifestyle dynamic of how is this person moving and functioning throughout the day? What kind of stress load are they carrying, and are they taking downtime, and what kinds of foods are they eating? And there's just so, and again, like you said, how is one thing influencing another, medications and so on, herbs. There's so many factors that go into it. And so much of it revolves around the day-to-day lifestyle choices and health choices that we're making. And if we don't go deep and dive deep into those, we're really not going to understand how we can, like we said, you can have the room temperature, environment, bedding, everything perfect. But if those root causes are not addressed during the day, you can still find your client having trouble sleep at night, even with some of those foundational elements that we mentioned. So that's why it's vital. And these conversations, like Soda said, are crucial. And that's why we're starting these talks, because we want people to have these conversations. We want people to really start going out there and recognizing that, this is something that needs lots of attention. And it's not something also to consider that it's like some, like I have to do this, it's kind of like, having a perspective of I should be. It's when you have the experience of what it feels like to be well rested and your mood gets improved, your libido gets improved, your self-esteem goes up, your creativity. I mean, it's like all of a sudden you are putting those rose-colored glasses on. So that's on the flip side, so while Soda and I are sharing these things, it's not because it's like, oh, it's something you must do for your health. We all know that, right? Everybody knows that. It's really, wow, what begins to happen with you as a human being and as a person once you do start, like your whole life changes.
It's a biological need, and it's a natural healer. When you are sick, when you're recovering from anything, the number one thing you do is you sleep. That is the way that the body repairs and restores itself. So there is you can go without water, you can go without food. You can only go 11 days and 7 hours without sleep. That's the record.
There you go. 100%. Any questions, comments, if you'd like to learn or you have ideas about other topics that Soda and I can bring to you, please do let us know in the comments. We are always reading and looking at them. Soda and myself will also bring more to the table for you. We're going to meet you on, let's see, what is the date? November. Let me just look at my calendar. November 2nd. So our next chat will be on Tuesday, November 2nd. Same time, same place, 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. We hope you enjoyed our discussion and we inspired you and motivated you to really get into this topic as professionals, and we look forward to more. Thank you so much.